received letters from your Postal Service saying that those ballots for November 3rd might not make it in time. As president, isn't it your responsibility, since this is your Postal Service, to meet this critical need?
Well, we have a man in there for 2 months. He's a very talented man. He's a brilliant business person. He's done great. He's a very nice man also. And Louis, he is working very hard. But as you know, the Democrats aren't approving the proper funding for Postal, and they're not approving the proper funding for this ridiculous thing that they want to do, which is all mail-in voting. If universal, you could call it mail-in voting. Again, absentee voting is great. You request, I'm an absentee voter because I requested, I got, and then I sent in my vote. So that works out very well. That's what we've had. But now they want to send in millions and millions of ballots. And you see what's happening. They're being lost. They're being discarded. They're finding them in piles. It's going to be a catastrophe. So, and this is beyond the post office. But Louis DeJoy is working very hard. The post office has for decades lost billions and billions of dollars. I read numbers today that are unthinkable. And what they want to do now is hit the post office with millions of ballots from certain states. And if you look at what happened in New York and Virginia and various other places, it's a catastrophe. They're losing 20% of the votes. Nobody knows what's happening. So we're going to see what happens. But I do say this, universal mail-in voting is going to be catastrophic. It's going to make our country a laughingstock all over the world. You can't send out millions of ballots. And look at all of the tests. Look, you've seen them. And there are many, far more. Just look at New York. Look at New Jersey. Look at the catastrophe in New Jersey. And New Jersey had more than just Patterson. Look at what's going on in Virginia. Look at what's happening with this mail-in voting. It's a disgrace. Absentee is good. Mail-in, universal, is very, very bad. There's no way they're going to get it accurately. They're off by 20 and 30%. And this is beyond post office. Now, with that being said, they want money for the universal mail-in ballots. And they're not getting it. You know why? Because of them. We want money to go to people. They want money in order to bail out states that have done very poorly. The states that have done poorly, you know them as well as I do. These are run by Democrats, usually radical left Democrats. You take a look at what's happening in Portland. And we'll go into Portland, we have to be asked. We'll go into Portland, straighten it out in 1 hour, like happened in Minneapolis. We'll go straighten it out in 1 hour. We will straighten it out so fast, but they have to ask us. So they need money, but they're not willing to approve the money that they need. If they can't get the money that they need for universal mail-in voting, I don't see how they can have it. And that's not only post office, it's also for the voting itself.
A follow on that, Mr. President. Does Postmaster DeJoy have your backing for the actions that he's taken in the last several weeks?
Yeah, he's a fantastic man. He wants to make the post office great again. You ever hear the expression? He wants to make the post office great again. The post office is a catastrophe.
Mail sorting machines nationwide, that's one of the things.
I don't know what he's doing. I can only tell you he's a very smart man. He'll be a great postmaster general. And he needs, obviously, if you're going to do these millions of ballots out of nowhere, he's going to obviously need funding. But the Democrats aren't willing to provide other things, and therefore they're not going to get the funding for that. But you are going to have a catastrophic situation with universal mail-in votes. And on top of it, the Democrats aren't willing to give the people the money and the post office the money.
Mr. President, you said a catastrophic situation is going to happen, but what are you doing to ensure that that doesn't happen? Because wouldn't these problems raise questions about the election results if you win?
Well, the problem with the mail-in voting, number one, you're never going to know when the election's over, okay? I mean, they called the election in New York for Carolyn Maloney. They shouldn't have done that. I think you should redo that election. And you know the opponent is screaming. They can't believe it. Ballots are lost. Ballots are defrauded. It's a total mess. And they called it for her. The reason is because I've been using it as a case. I've been using it as a case. So, look, we are going to have an election that takes place on a beautiful day, November 3rd. And usually at the end of the evening, they say, Donald Trump has won the election. Donald Trump is your new president. Whatever they say, you know what? You're not going to know this, possibly, if you really did it right, for months or for years. Because these ballots are all going to be lost. They're going to be gone. And just take a look at a smaller basis, but it's great tests. We're doing tests. I mean, these are, you could call them polls, you could call them tests. Look at what's happening all over the country where you have universal mail-in. Wait a minute, the ballots are lost, there's fraud, there's theft. It's happening all over the place. Now, we're going to do it with this whole vast, big section of the country? It's crazy.
You're talking about mail, you're not talking about prescriptions.
Because you have made it so plain that you are opposed and do not trust mail-in voting, is your Postmaster General using the agency of the Postal Service to create delays?
No, not at all. He would love to see it happen. I didn't speak to him about it, but I will tell you this. I would imagine he would say, number one, they didn't give me the funding for it because it's sitting in Congress because they want $1 trillion to bail out states, just so you understand what they want. They want $1 trillion to bail out badly run, Democrat-run states, okay? That's what they want. They're not giving the money to the post office. They have to give the money to the post office.
The steps the Postmaster General is taking are creating some delays now.
No, the steps he's creating, yeah.
Are you trying to discourage?
No, not at all. The steps that he's taking are trying to stop the tremendous losses that have taken place for many, many years. He's trying to streamline the post office and make it great again,
80
okay?
days before an election, sir? Is
Well,
this the
wait
right
a minute,
time?
you just threw, look, I just read last night that now New Jersey's going to try the universal mail-in voting. Well, they didn't know this, so now all of a sudden New Jersey's going to be hit with millions of ballots to be sent out. They didn't know anything about this. So how does a post office, how does a postal service that doesn't know about it, now all of a sudden New Jersey's supposed to take out and millions of ballots are going to be sent all over New Jersey? And if you look at some of the things they say, like take the state of Nevada, take that little scam that's going on over there with the clubhouse politician governor, take that, where the votes don't even have to be in till they get counted 7 days after November 3rd. That means if Nevada's a very important state, I think we have a great chance of winning that state. If the votes don't have to be in for 7 and they're not counting the votes 7 days later, that means how are they going to predict a winner on November 3rd?
Mr. President, the Inspector
It's
General
not
also-
just
Whether
election.
Whether a ballot was automatically sent to somebody, or if...
No, absentee is okay.
Okay, but once the ballot gets into the mail, it doesn't matter. The workers have to sort it. So the bottom line is there must be more resources for post offices across
But the
country.
Democrats are not, they are not approving the resources. You're right, there has to be more resources, I agree, because all of a sudden the post office is tripling up and set. The problem is the Democrats are not approving the funds necessary. It's in there. Now, they have 25 billion, I've seen 15 billion, I've seen a lot of money. I don't know how you're going to spend that much, but that's what they're saying. They're saying, so not only do they want $1 trillion to hand out as welfare to all these states that are run by Democrats doing badly, they want $25 billion for the post office, but they're not approving it. Now, what I want is a lot of money, thousands of dollars, to go to people because they need money. They really, despite the good numbers, despite numbers like that, they need money to live, and I want that to happen. The Democrats don't care about that. They just want to give bailout money to their friends running big states poorly.